I have assured all of the local officials here that whatever they need, whether it be personnel, whether it be equipment, whether it be search and rescue operations, whether it be supporting them in their endeavors, whatever these communities need, the state of Texas is going to step up and provide it. They will continue in the darkness of night. They will be taking place when the sun rises in the morning. They will be nonstop, seeking to find everybody who is unaccounted for.
And good morning, I'm Jack Fink. Welcome to Eye on Politics. Horrific, devastating, catastrophic. Just some of the words used to describe the deadly flooding in central Texas during the early morning hours on July 4th while people were still sleeping. And many people are still at a loss for words when it comes to all those who lost their lives that day. Among them, young children from North Texas who went to Camp Mystic in Kerr County. They include 9-year-old Lila Bonner, 8-year-old Eloise Peck, 9-year-old Janie Hunt, 8-year-old Hadley Hanna, 8-year-old Wynn Naylor, 8-year-old twins Hannah and Rebecca Lawrence, and sisters 11-year-old Brooke Harbor and 13-year-old Blair Harbor. They were on vacation with their family. Their grandparents were swept away and haven't been found. More than 120 people have died, and with a high number of people missing, this will likely become the deadliest flooding event in Texas history. For comparison, more than 220 people died in a San Antonio flood in 1921. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump visited Kerr County on Friday. They held a roundtable with first responders, state and local leaders, and the president offered his support.
As our nation, we mourn for every single life that was swept away in the flood, and we pray for the families that are left behind. It's amazing the incredible spirit from those families. I don't know. I don't even know how they do it.
To the community, to everybody who lost a loved one, we are grieving with you. Our nation is grieving with you. We just met with the wonderful families. We pray with them. We hug.
Now the question is, how will Texas leaders respond to this disaster? Governor Greg Abbott had a message for survivors and the victims' families. The state is in this for the long haul.
We have to find every single person who's missing. We are not leaving until this job is finished.
Authorities say it was a wall of water that crashed through the hill country, with the Guadalupe River rising by 26 feet in just 45 minutes. Records show the National Weather Service sent urgent and timely warnings, but the questions remain: why so many people were in harm's way? Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Austin sharply criticized all levels of government.
And I think we have to have accountability at the county, state, and federal level. Why a county would invite people from all over the state and the country to come there to camp along the river and not have an alert system in place to protect those people is difficult for me to understand.
During a news conference early last week, reporters asked Governor Abbott who was to blame, and he rejected the question.
You ask, I'm going to use your words. Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions.
I spoke with Senator Ted Cruz, who told me just a week earlier he picked up his younger daughter who attended another camp in Kerr County. He acknowledged there are tough questions that need to be answered.
I will say as a dad, it is frustrating that those girls were not out of harm's way earlier. And I'm sure we will ask questions about how, when the next flood occurs, how do we make sure that you don't have 7- and 8-year-old little girls in cabins right by the river's edge as the floodwaters are rising?
The governor expanded the agenda to his previously called special session starting July 21st. Among them, he wants lawmakers to pass legislation to improve early warning systems in flood-prone areas throughout the state. I spoke with Republican State Senator Paul Bettencourt of Houston about legislation he's working on.
I started working with my team after he gave that announcement to look at trying to combine old tech with new tech. Because part of the problem that you see in these type of flash floods is that this phone is so overloaded now with alerts of banking alerts, security alerts, amber alerts, silver alerts, whatever, that people have a tendency to turn the alerts off. And more importantly, you have to be able to cut through what's happening during a natural disaster and get people's attention. So I thought of civil defense sirens, which has been a staple in Tornado Alley for decades. So what my bill is going to look at is combining what is old tech, which would be the sirens, with the new tech, effectively the announcements through cell phones on digital media of emergency management alerts, and then try to tie it together with packages that look at what's happening in these watersheds.
Is there the technology so that these alerts are different, and so that when you get this particular alert about a ravaging flood heading your way, that it's different from a silver alert, different from the others?
It's a great question. And actually, one part of this bill is talking about using a natural disaster alert to try to cut through all the blocks that are on people's phones right now. Okay. Now, there's also another problem in these river areas like the Western Guadalupe, river. You may not get any cell service at all. Okay. Because especially when you drop down into these limestone caverns. So we're also looking at what would be, Starlink technology, 5G. You have to have a redundant communication to even get to a tower that has the ability to notify people through a siren.
Is this also the opportunity for the state to take a wider look at not only these other river districts in which you mentioned, but even just all across the state?
We had a disaster in Wimberley about 10 years ago where the towers were set up through the water board in the state, and this would allow local governments to buy these cheaply, quickly, and there was kind of a standardized package. So I think that's what we're looking at, is trying to get some basic good technology packaged up that we can get money appropriated for, and then get that money distributed. Because the one thing that the governor, and I know the lieutenant governor especially, made clear is that they wanted to try to have this deployed in watersheds in a year, and that's an aggressive schedule. So we've been moving with speed accordingly.
And the state has the money to pay for that right now, doesn't it?
No question about it.
State Representative Joe Moody told me lawmakers are ready to get to work.
We have a lot of work to do when it comes to the why and the how, and I think that's what the legislature is going to be tasked with doing. That's a long-term conversation. I was one of two legislators sitting down to Uvalde in what was a man-made tragedy, but our task there was similar. We need to know why and how this happened and what we can do going forward.
When you're talking about the interoperability of communications, you were a co-author, I believe, of House Bill 13, which did pass the House during the regular legislative session, didn't get out of the Senate. Talk to us about the highlights of the legislation.
Sure. House Bill 13, which was authored by Chairman Ken King, who's from the Panhandle, and it was born of the conversations post-wildfire, right? But the reason I got involved in it and was asked to be involved in it was because of my work in the Uvalde tragedy, because there were communication errors there. There was a lack of ability to communicate across agencies. And that led to, in my opinion, more suffering, more death in that tragedy than should have been. And so that's the bill itself was built to create a infrastructure fund over time that local governments could call upon when they saw needs in their community. So the folks like we're hearing from in Kerr County that had cost barriers, that they would have a partner in the state of Texas to build up that infrastructure. And that's, when you talk about the weight of government and the power of government to do good work in the community, this is what it exists to do, because it can do it on a scale and on a level that Kerr County can't do, that communities in the Panhandle can't do, like Uvalde couldn't do.
Governor Abbott has said that he has told members of the Central Texas community that Texas is not going anywhere. They are going to be there. The state's going to be there for the long term, not only to find all the missing in the short term, but rebuilding as well. What do you make of that?
No, I think the governor is correct. This is a long-term project. Look, there's some hurt that we can't heal through state dollars or infrastructure planning, but some of this hurt is never going to go away for these families. This is an unspeakable tragedy for them, sending their children away to camp, which is supposed to be a formative and beautiful and amazing time, and instead has turned to the darkest moment in their lives. Outside of writing bills and sending money to these areas, we need to keep these folks in our thoughts and in our prayers. That has got to be a part of what we do, because putting your arms around these folks is what is going to allow them to start to go through that healing process. I know that firsthand when we encountered a shooting here in El Paso on August 3rd, 2019. Strangers from across the state, across the nation, they wrapped their arms around us. They lifted us up. They were here for us. And we need to be here for our neighbors in Central Texas and around the state where some of those victims came from. That's an important part of this process. And that's not a bill, and that's not a dollar amount. That's just being good neighbors.
You know, I hear you say that, and sometimes you see people, ridicule, lawmakers or leaders for saying, we have to come together. We have to, hug the people who are going through this tragedy, and they ridicule that. And here you are saying how vital it was for you and your community in El Paso going through that back in 2019.
I'll never understand the ridicule, because it is an important part of it. The humanity of all this is important, and seeing each other as human beings going through difficult times and suffering. Being there for people in all of those ways is incredibly important. It doesn't mean that we don't get to ask hard questions. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have to hear very uncomfortable facts about what did or didn't happen. Those things happen as well.
The special session runs 30 days. The agenda includes many hot-button topics, including regulating THC products and redrawing Texas congressional districts, why one North Texas Democrat seat is in the political crosshairs, when Eye on Politics returns. Governor Abbott expanded his special session agenda, which now includes 18 items. They include redistricting and also protecting children from THC and regulating hemp-derived products after the governor's last-minute controversial veto of the ban on THC products that passed in both the Senate and the House. Before the flooding disaster, the governor's veto of the THC ban was the biggest issue for the session, an issue that created quite a stir between the governor and lieutenant governor. And when it comes to redistricting, President Trump wants state lawmakers to redraw the state's congressional districts to increase the number of Republican seats by as many as 5. The governor cited a letter from the U.S. Justice Department that told him that the state had 4, quote, unconstitutional race-based congressional districts, and it said they needed to be corrected. They include 4 seats held by Democrats, districts 9, 18, and 29 in the Houston area, and North Texas, District 33 by Congressman Marc Veasey. We spoke one-on-one with Veasey, and he told me this will likely impact every congressional district in Texas.
I think that is the stupidest memo that I've ever seen from the DOJ. And I've been in politics now for a while. I was a congressional staffer. I served 8 years in the state legislature. This is my 7th term in Congress. That was the dumbest memo I've ever heard. I think that is clearly intended to discriminate against communities like the ones that I represent in Dallas and Fort Worth that are largely Hispanic and Black. The same with the ones in Houston. I'm sure that the memo was probably meant to help Greg Abbott out somehow, so he would have an excuse to call this. But I think that it's disgusting that you would call a special session on the same call to deal with the devastating floods that have impacted Central Texas.
Have you had conversations since this agenda item was released with other members of Congress, the Democrats?
Everybody's talking about this, but I'll be 100% with you, Jack. You know, the districts that were named were just 4 districts that were named. The Republicans want to redraw this entire map. The rumors that we're hearing in Washington, D.C., is that Trump wants to create 4 or 5 new Republican congressional districts. The districts that they chose, really, at the end of the day, won't mean that much in the scheme of things, because this is all about completely redrawing this entire map.
Have you had any conversations with members of the legislature who were there with you at the time and those who have come since then?
I have talked with members of the legislature, and they really don't know much either. They had been hearing rumors, just like we had, that there was going to be a special session called. And that's basically all that we've heard. They have really kept this thing a secret.
With such a large agenda, some observers at the Texas Capitol are wondering if there will have to be multiple special sessions to pass everything that the governor has requested. Up next, State Senator Angela Paxton files for divorce, saying in court filings that Attorney General Ken Paxton committed adultery. How this could impact the bitter Republican primary between the Attorney General and Senator John Cornyn, when Eye on Politics returns. Now to the story about a once powerful couple in Collin County politics. Attorney General Ken Paxton and his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton. Senator Paxton filed divorce papers Thursday, and in them she said the Attorney General committed adultery, and she blamed him for the breakup of their marriage. The court document also reveals that the couple separated on or about June 1st of last year. In a post on X Thursday afternoon, Senator Paxton said, quote, "I file for divorce on biblical grounds. I believe marriage is a sacred covenant, and I have earnestly pursued reconciliation. But in light of recent discoveries, I do not believe that it honors God or is loving to myself, my children, or Ken to remain in the marriage." Shortly after her post, the Attorney General filed his own, saying, quote, "After facing the pressures of countless political attacks and public scrutiny, Angela and I have decided to start a new chapter in our lives." He goes on to say, "I ask for your prayers and privacy at this time." Allegations that the Attorney General had an affair surfaced in one of the impeachment articles filed against him by the Texas House 2 years ago. During the impeachment trial, House managers planned to call Laura Olson to testify about their alleged affair. But while Olson was at the Capitol with her attorney, she did not have to testify after a ruling by the presiding officer, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Senator Paxton, who was not allowed to be a juror in the impeachment trial, supported her husband before, during, and after the trial in which he was acquitted. SMU political science professor Matthew Wilson said the divorce filing changes all that, and that it could hurt General Paxton, who's locked in an already contentious Republican primary battle with U.S. Senator John Cornyn.
Well, Angela Paxton's support has always been important to Ken Paxton. It's been an important element, obviously, personally, but also politically. The fact that she was there to stand by him has done him great good. Now that will no longer be the case. And so I think it is damaging to Paxton from a political standpoint, but it certainly plays into a narrative that we will hear from John Cornyn. And if Paxton were to win the nomination next year, that we will hear from his Democratic opponent about how Ken Paxton has moral character issues, whether it's corruption, adultery, marital infidelity, whatever it may be.
Professor Wilson told me while this will be brought up in the campaign, Paxton may be able to survive this politically. Paxton leads Cornyn in the Republican primary polls. Former conservative state representative Matt Schaefer of Tyler, who voted against the Attorney General's impeachment, said on X, quote, "Ken Paxton is morally unfit to hold office. He cannot be the next U.S. Senator from Texas." In a later post, Schaefer said he's not supporting Cornyn either. A spokesperson for the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which supports Cornyn, blasted Paxton on X. Joanna Rodriguez said, quote, "What Ken Paxton has put his family through is truly repulsive and disgusting." But from the beginning, there has been talk that perhaps Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt and North Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne of Irving could also jump into the Republican primary. I asked Congresswoman Van Duyne about this last week before news of the divorce broke.
I think ever since I got onto city council, people have talked about one thing that I'm running for or another. And basically, when I'm in a position, this is what I'm focused on. I'm on Ways and Means. I'd say is the most influential. It's the most powerful committee in Congress. We have got a lot to do with this next tax package going on. And people are going to talk about others running for office. While I appreciate their support, right now I'm focused on being the congressional representative for District 24.
It will take a while for the Paxton's divorce to play out politically, and there's still a lot of time before candidates have to file their paperwork, which starts Saturday, November 8th and ends Monday, December 8th. And don't forget, you can watch all the full interviews from our show on our CBS Texas YouTube page. Once there, hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. I'm going to be taking an extended vacation, and we'll be back next month. My great colleagues here will be filling in. And from all of us here, enjoy your Sunday.